What are you guys?
Well, we've been called ghost hunters, paranormal researchers.
But we prefer to be known simply as Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Before their stories inspired a string of blockbuster movies, Ed and Lorraine Warren were renowned, though often controversially so, for their investigations into paranormal hauntings. In 1952, they founded the New England Society for Psychic Research, a centre they claimed was dedicated to studying supernatural phenomena. Their basement housed the infamous Occult Museum, a collection of allegedly cursed objects and haunted artifacts they said were gathered during their investigations.
Everything and anything in here we have investigated.
According to the Warrens, they worked on over 10,000 cases, often collaborating with doctors, nurses, researchers, and even police. However, critics have cast doubt on the authenticity of their claims, suggesting that many of the cases relied more on theatrics than verifiable evidence.
Command you to reveal your identity.
The Warrens presented themselves as uniquely gifted in handling supernatural phenomena. Lorraine claimed to see auras from the age of 7 or 8.
From the time that I was about 7 years old, I remember seeing lights around people. I realized that I was communicating.
While Ed, who said he grew up in a haunted house, became a self-taught demonologist.
My interest was generated from the fact that I lived in a haunted house as a boy.
Back then, Ed was only one of 7 recognized demonologists, religious demonologists in the nation.
Yet skeptics argue that their supposed abilities lacked scientific basis and were more akin to showmanship than genuine insight. The Warrens' work became famous through their involvement in cases like the Amityville Horror, the Perron family haunting, and the Annabelle doll. And while these stories have captivated audiences, many have questioned the truth behind them. The Amityville case, for instance, has been widely criticised as a hoax, with even some involved parties admitting to fabricating events. Similarly, the Perron family's experiences and the Annabelle doll's alleged demonic possession remain unverifiable, raising questions about the Warrens' role in sensationalizing these stories. Critics point to the lack of concrete evidence in their investigations, accusing the couple of exploiting fear and folklore to bolster their fame.
Earthbound spirits, demonic, inhuman spirits, poltergeists. We took all of this knowledge and we put it into 9 books that we have today. We're working on number 10.
Nonetheless, the Warrens' narratives continue to resonate with believers and inspire widespread fascination, leaving a lasting legacy in the world of the paranormal. So today we're diving into some of the most famous cases, and we're kicking things off with what is said to be their most terrifying case of all. In the world of paranormal lore, few artifacts are as infamous as the Annabelle doll, housed in the Occult Museum once owned by the Warrens. Annabelle, a seemingly harmless Raggedy Ann doll, resides in a locked glass case with a stern warning: positively do not open. Despite its innocuous appearance, the Warrens declared it their most feared object, citing its connection to malevolent supernatural activity. However, a closer examination of the claims reveals a murky intersection of folklore, religious belief, and the limits of verifiable evidence. The story begins in 1968 when a 28-year-old nurse received the doll as a gift. According to the Warrens' account, the doll began to move on its own, changing positions and eventually leaving handwritten messages on parchment paper that the roommates swore they didn't own. A medium informed the women that the spirit of a young girl named Annabelle Higgins inhabited the doll.
The woman had told them, the medium, that there was a spirit of a 6-year-old child in the doll by the name of Annabelle, who had been killed outside of their apartment house in an automobile accident. Well, there was such a child, but God does not allow a child spirit to go into a doll.
The Warrens, upon investigation, contradicted this claim, stating that the doll was not possessed but manipulated by an inhuman, demonic entity aiming to possess a human host. They said for safety, they took the doll and sealed it in their museum. The Warrens further described eerie incidents tied to Annabelle, including car troubles that allegedly ceased only after the doll was doused in holy water. According to their accounts, Annabelle continued to move and demonstrate signs of malevolent intent, even while contained in their museum. While the story of Annabelle is chilling, skeptics raise several questions. Firstly, the narrative relies almost entirely on anecdotal evidence. The doll's supposed movements and the notes it left are unverifiable beyond the testimony of the women and the Warrens. No third-party documentation or video evidence exists to corroborate these claims. Additionally, the parchment paper detail is intriguing but unverifiable. If the women truly had no such paper in their home, how was this determined? Could it be a case of misremembering or exaggeration? The lack of forensic investigation into this claim weakens its credibility. The involvement of a medium also invites scrutiny. Spiritualists often employ cold reading techniques to craft compelling narratives that resonate with their clients, especially those in distress. The assertion that a spirit of a little girl was involved might have appealed emotionally to the women, making the explanation more convincing. Finally, the Warrens' conclusion of a demonic presence is framed within their devout Catholic beliefs, which heavily influence their interpretations of paranormal phenomena. Without broader cultural or scientific validation, this conclusion remains speculative. The Warrens' subsequent investigations, such as their involvement with the Perron family, follow a similar pattern. The Perrons reported increasingly violent hauntings after moving into a historic farmhouse in Rhode Island. Research revealed a troubling history of deaths on the property.
And that's when we learned about Bathsheba Sherman.
They said accused in life of satanic practices. Andrea Perron, one of the daughters, recounted experiences of levitating beds, foul odours, and an oppressive presence in the basement. The Warrens conducted a seance that reportedly escalated the haunting, culminated in Carolyn Perron being thrown across the room. However, unlike in the Hollywood depiction, no exorcism was performed. The Perron family eventually moved away in 1980, ending their ordeal. As with Annabelle, skeptics challenged the Perron family's claims, and many argued that the Warrens' involvement often sensationalized cases, leveraging them for publicity. Historical research confirms the existence of Bathsheba Sherman, but no credible evidence ties her to Satanism or murder. This characterization may reflect a mix of local folklore and confirmation bias. Also, the seance reportedly worsened the family's unfortunate situation, raising ethical questions about the Warrens' methods. Critics suggested that such rituals can cause psychological distress, especially in individuals already fearful of supernatural forces. The Perron family's accounts, while compelling, also suffer the limitations of memory and storytelling. Over the decades, it seems recollections may have become exaggerated, either intentionally or subconsciously, especially when retelling stories to align with public interest following the success of the Conjuring movie.
The producers were afraid that the true story would literally scare people out of the theater.
The Annabelle and Perron cases exemplify how cultural narratives shape our understanding of the supernatural. Stories of haunted dolls and cursed homes tap into deep-seated fears of the unknown. The Warrens, with their Catholic faith and supposed expertise in demonology, often framed their findings in ways that resonate with these fears. This framing not only bolstered their reputation but also influenced how the public received these stories. theories. However, the rise of skepticism highlights the need for critical thinking in the face of extraordinary claims. The lack of physical evidence, reliance on anecdotal testimony, and the potential financial incentives for sensationalism all warrant caution. Additionally, psychological phenomena such as suggestion, groupthink, and confirmation bias may explain much of what is attributed to the paranormal. Among the apparent many investigations conducted by Ed and Lorraine Warren, the Amityville horror case stands as their most famous and most controversial claim to fame. While it's captivated the public through books, films, and countless retellings, the case has also been met with significant skepticism, raising questions about the fine line between paranormal phenomena and sensationalized storytelling. The story begins with a tragedy.
6 members of one family have been found shot to death in their night clothes in their expensive home in Amityville, Long Island. The only available information at this moment, according to the Amityville Village Police, is that the victims have been identified as members of the DeFeo family. They were found by a 23-year-old son, Ronald DeFeo, who is believed to be the only surviving member of the family.
On November 13th, 1974, 23-year-old Ronald DeFeo Jr. murdered his parents and 4 siblings in their beds with a rifle. DeFeo claimed he was driven by voices urging him to kill, but his account shifted multiple times, leading many to suspect drug use or personal motives rather than a paranormal influence. Nevertheless, the gruesome nature of the murders became the foundation for later claims of a haunted house. Could the violent deaths in the DeFeo home have left behind a dark, lingering presence? Or was this merely the beginning of a narrative shaped to profit from tragedy? In December 1975, the Lutz family, George, Kathy, and their 2 sons moved into the DeFeo house for a bargain price due to its grim history. Within days, they claimed to encounter disturbing paranormal phenomena. George reported strange sensations, waking at 3:15 a.m. every night, the approximate time of the DeFeo murders. He even said that he witnessed his wife transform into a haggard old woman before levitating above the bed.
Earlier that day, Kathy had turned into an old woman. She had scratches across her stomach. And during that night, she actually lifted up a little bit off the bed, about 3-4 inches.
Unless you actually see it, though, how are you really supposed to believe it? And even when we do see it in the film, how are we supposed to know this really happened?
Well, again, if you read the book, The Haunted, you'll find that there are priest names there are college professors, ourselves, numerous credible people that you could go to for information pertaining to that case and the levitations and whatever else did happen there.
They said other bizarre incidents included slime oozing from the walls, malevolent eyes staring through the windows, and a menacing pig-like creature roaming the property. They also had accounts of knives flying off counters and deafening noises, culminating in a final night of chaos described as loud as a marching band. The family fled the house after just 28 days, leaving their belongings behind. Ed and Lorraine Warren arrived at the Amityville house 20 days after the Lutz family departed. According to the reports, Ed was thrown to the ground by an unseen force, while Lorraine experienced an overwhelming sense of malevolence. The Warrens also claimed to capture evidence of a ghost boy on the stairway, a photograph that has been heavily debated. To many, the image serves as compelling evidence of the paranormal. The photo taken inside the Amityville house has become one of the most famous paranormal photos of all time. It features what appears to be a young boy with white glowing eyes who is peeking out of a doorway. George Lutz revealed the Amityville ghost boy photo on the Merv Griffin show back in 1979. 3 years after it was taken. The image was supposedly captured by Gene Campbell, a professional photographer who was part of the team who worked with the Warrens. Gene had set up an automatic camera that took infrared pictures to capture the second floor landing during the night. Equipped with his infrared black and white film, his camera captured the supposed ghost boy photo that some have speculated could be the ghost of the murdered child, John DeFeo, who had lived in the house with his family prior to the Lutzes. While others believe this has been debunked and it is in fact not a young boy at all, never mind the ghost of a young boy, some believe that the image is of Paul Bartz, an investigator working with the Warrens the night the photo was taken. The white eyes are actually light reflecting in his glasses. It's said that he peeked around the corner while investigating, realised he was in shot of the camera, it flashed at him and he backed away, leaving this one spooky looking shot. If we take a look at another photo of the Warrens that night, we can see Paul Bartz in a shot as well, wearing this checkered shirt that we can almost make out behind the railings. Is that the same shirt? Is it that guy? Dozens of websites have set out to prove or disprove the Amityville ghost photo, but most people have yet to be convinced one way or the other, thus allowing the infamous photo to continue to cast its spell. While the Lutz family's claims are striking, they have faced intense scrutiny. Skeptics argue that the Amityville horror is a carefully constructed hoax designed to capitalise on the notoriety of the DeFeo murders.
You say a friend of yours lives here and you've been in the house. Is there any truth to all these stories that it's haunted and there are weird smells and slime and all those other things?
Nothing at all. It's all a bunch of lies.
Amityville itself is just a story. The whole thing. It's a hoax to make money.
The Lutz family were having financial issues before moving into the house. George Lutz's business was losing money. Some suggest that fabricating a sensational story was a means of garnering attention and income. Of course, the family collaborated with the author J. Anson on the 1977 book The Amityville Horror.
We left the house because the house became uninhabitable. As far as we were concerned, there was no reason to stay there anymore. There were too many things happening too often. Those specific events are not something that we try to sit down and explain to anyone else. That's why the book was done.
Which became a bestseller and the basis for several movies. I could imagine making them plenty of money. So if they were doing this all for profit, it looks like their plan paid off. Critics have noted discrepancies in the Lutz family accounts over time though. For instance, neighbours reported no unusual noises or disturbances during the time the Lutzes lived in the house, contradicting claims of constant house-shaking noises. William Weber, Ronald DeFeo Jr.'s defence attorney, later admitted he had discussed fabricating the haunting with the Lutzes to sell a sensationalised story.
Is this fact or fiction?
It's fiction. Absolutely.
Did you play a part in some of the material in there?
Yes. We could sit here for 3 weeks and I'll keep telling you each time it's a fraud.
Although the family distanced themselves from him, his admission further undermined the credibility of their claims.
George and Kathy Lutz told the truth about what happened in that house. They had a lie detector test. The guy who invented the polygraph machine, his assistant, gave George and Kathy Lutz a polygraph and passed it with flying colors.
While the Lutzes actually passed a polygraph test, skeptics argue that polygraphs are not foolproof. The results could indicate their belief in their story rather than the accuracy of the events. Many of the phenomena described, such as strange noises, cold spots, and unpleasant smells, can be attributed to mundane causes like drafts, structural issues, or even psychological stress. Also, George Lutz's fascination with the occult may have also influenced his perception of events. Despite the doubts, the Amityville horror remains a cultural touchstone in paranormal lore. Even today, Daniel Lutz claims to have nightmares about his time in the house.
I believe that there is a such thing as evil, and I was a victim of that.
Lending some weight to the idea that the family truly experienced something unsettling, whether paranormal or psychological. The case also propelled the Warrens to fame, cementing their role as leading figures in paranormal investigation. However, their involvement invites additional skepticism, as critics accuse the Warrens of exploiting vulnerable families and embellishing evidence to enhance their reputation.
I'm invisible.
I'm invisible.
You're invisible? Why are you invisible? So much H-O-S-T.
The Enfield haunting is one of the most well-known and controversial cases in the history of paranormal investigation. In 1977, the Hodgson family in Enfield, North London, England, claimed their house was plagued by a strange and terrifying phenomena. Over a period of 2 years, they reported everything from knocking sounds emanating from the walls to objects flying across the room seemingly of their own accord. While the case attracted global attention and the involvement of the renowned paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, this case has also faced intense skepticism.
I mean, I like the photographs. I was very taken with the one where we had a case where the spirit was willing but the flash was weak, you know. That's the best we're going to get tonight, folks. No, but I mean, a lot of those did look to me as if they were possibly double exposures. I mean, without actually looking at the...
They are definitely not double exposures.
That is what they looked like.
Excuse me, are you a photographic expert?
These extraordinary events, which contradict all known laws of physics, surely ought to be known to the wider scientific public.
We've got my society, the Society for Psychical Research, which is the leading scientific society in the world for the study of this. What are you laughing at? Absolutely incredible.
The work of the SPR seems in the arc. They have no idea of the electromagnetic aspects of this.
Excuse me, not the mere fact that we've had Nobel Prize winners...
We can't both talk, we have to get stereo.
I'm not going to argue with such nonsense, I'm sorry.
What do you say to people who say to you, with you children playing around, what do you say about that?
I say that's a matter of opinion. If you haven't experienced it, you're going to say that, but it did really happen.
The question remains, was the Enfield haunting genuine, or was it all an elaborate hoax? The Hodgson family's ordeal began with mysterious knocking sounds, leading them to believe that burglars may be looking around their home. When police were called to investigate the noises, one officer reported seeing a chair move on its own, though there was no apparent source of the motion.
It came off the floor, or nearly a half inch I should say, and I saw it slide off to the right, about 3.5 to 4 feet before it came to rest. I checked to see whether or not it could possibly have slid along the floor. I placed a marble on the floor to see whether or not the marble would go in the same direction as the chair did, and it didn't roll at all. I checked for wires under the cushion of the chair, and I could find no explanation at all.
This account added an official layer to the bizarre happenings, bolstering the family's claims. People tend to think that the police witness statements are better than anyone else's because they have some authority, and the police wouldn't lie, but they are just normal people who are all prone to mistaking things.
Well, what we've got here is a situation where essentially we've got anecdotal evidence. I don't doubt the sincerity of the people who are saying these things happened, but we know from a huge amount of research that eyewitness testimony is often very inaccurate.
She said she checked for wires and checked if the floor was level by testing it with a marble, but did she not see one of the girls kick the chair from behind her, causing the chair to fly across the room in front of her? Who knows? As time went on, the events reportedly escalated. Marbles and Legos were said to have been thrown across rooms, yet they were oddly hot to the touch afterward. Lights flickered, folded clothes flew through the air, and even large pieces of furniture were said to spin or move inexplicably. Such occurrences defied rational explanation and attracted considerable media attention.
There she is, across this radio, one leg in the air and her head hanging down.
Among the many investigators drawn to the Enfield house were, of course, Ed and Lorraine Warren. Visiting the home in 1978, The Warrens were of course quick to declare it a genuine case of poltergeist activity. Ed Warren famously remarked, "Those who deal with supernatural day in and day out know the phenomena are there. There's no doubt about it." The Warrens, who were staunch believers in the paranormal, claimed to have witnessed compelling evidence of the haunting. However, the Warrens' involvement has often been viewed with suspicion. Critics argue that their accounts were exaggerated or outright fabricated to fit their narrative. The Warrens were prolific storytellers with a vested interest in maintaining their reputation as leading paranormal investigators. Their livelihood depended on their ability to captivate audiences through books, lectures, and later, movie adaptations of their cases. This financial incentive has led many to question their objectivity and the reliability of their findings. The Enfield case has faced significant scrutiny from skeptics, many of who believe the events were either misinterpreted or even deliberately staged. Some journalists and investigators have pointed out inconsistencies in the family's accounts and noted that the activity seemed to occur only when certain family members, particularly the teenage daughters, were present.
Yes, there were times when the children played around. Of course there were. One particular time, Janet excitedly came up to me and said, "The poltergeist has pinched your tape recorder." I started to look around. I found the tape recorder. Because what Janet didn't know was the tape recorder was still running. When I played it back, it said, "Oh, cool, let's play a trick on him and we'll say the poltergeist did it." That sort of stuff.
Which of course cast doubt on the entire case. Additionally, physical examinations for the phenomena have been proposed. Knocking sounds, for instance, could have been caused by plumbing or structural issues within the house. The movement of objects might have been staged or exaggerated. Without concrete evidence, such as reliable video footage or corroboration from impartial witnesses, the claims remain speculative. Despite the doubts surrounding its authenticity, the Enfield haunting has become a cornerstone of paranormal lore. Through the years, the Warrens performed all of their paranormal investigations free of charge, making their livelihood from selling books, movie rights, lectures and tours of their museum. Ed Warren died from complications following a stroke on August 23rd, 2006. Lorraine Warren retired from active investigation shortly after. However, she remained as a consultant to the NESPA until her death in 2019. Many skeptics have criticised Ed and Lorraine Warren over the years, saying they're good at telling ghost stories, but lack any real evidence. However, Ed and Lorraine Warren always maintained that their experiences with demons and ghosts absolutely took place as they described. Whether or not the stories are true, it's clear that the Warrens made their mark on the paranormal world. Their legacy is solidified by dozens of films and television series that have been created based on their many eerie cases. So there we go guys, a few stories from some of their most famous cases. If you would like to see more, let me know down below because there's more stories we could dive into. We could make this a part 1, so let me know if you want to see a part 2 and I can dive into some more. Thank you so much for watching. If you are still here, you're a legend. Thank you for sticking around, and if you are not subscribed, make sure you hit that subscribe button because it's absolutely free. Drop a like on this video if you liked it, that would really help push this video out to more people. Thank you so much, and I will see you in the next one.